work in progress.
But there is, well, there's the .amp component, which, a lot of things use that now.
17.
Yeah.
I did add that console fish, the side PSY shelf, right? Side shelf.
Yeah.
That was easy to add. Yeah, just add it, did a require on it, and then it was just work right after that.
Oh. Are you doing anything for anything that you're building on top of, or are you looking at the simple components? You have any options.
Yeah, there's an options resolver. I'm gonna
Basically,
I've looked at it before.
Yeah.
But it's got all kinds of ways for you to set up rules, like validations too.
Yeah.
So that way you can actually, you can even accept the configuration from somewhere else and own it and still, but you still have your rules, you know, so you can policy that, or you must apply this data or that data. Yeah.
I'd like to do some validation.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, like
It was lucky, right?
Yes.
Nice to meet you. Nice to see you.
Hey, how's it going? Hey. Good to see you. John. Carolyn and
So there's also like it was called a property access component, which is kind of nice. You can use that to access, like if you don't, like user function calls on objects, stuff like that. It'll let you find your methods and properties of these different objects. Let's see.
What's it called?
Here we go. It just says the component provides function to read and write from to an object or array using simple string notation. So like you use a dot notation.
Yeah.
And it'll crawl through that way.
I mean, look at the source document.
Speaking of the videos you watch, and then the comic books.
But there's some cool stuff
The
there.
videos you watch. Comic books. 361, that's crazy.
I think,
So what's the first you were on there?
Carrie,
Oh.
So,
somebody wants to retweet that on San Diego Laravel. Want to appreciate it?
I don't have access to that one.
Okay.
Our social media.
But they have like their expression language component too. So you can actually.
So, I'm just going to reiterate because somebody walked in late. As you saw, we're screening 360. So there's really no hiding from that camera. That Mike is also
you
pretty
can sit under the
sensitive.
table. You can sit under the table.
Mike is also pretty sensitive, as we all heard. So any conversation will be picked up. Daryl, I'm looking at you. And I will be watching.
All your snide comments will be recorded forever.
We have pizzas on the way. We didn't realize we had to order it this month, so they're on their way. They'll probably be here in about 30, 40 minutes from now. So they're coming. There are drinks in the cooler there, so help yourself till the pizza gets here. We'll probably take a quick little break. Hey. We'll probably take a quick little break when the pizza gets here. You still in here? Oh, okay, cool.
What user account tweeted that?
What's that?
What user, did you tweet that personally?
Yeah. So that's not right. Nope. You don't see it? Did I tweet it?
I'm not seeing it. Just saying.
Maybe Twitter has
No,
problems
it's there.
with their server.
Are you sure you're following me?
I'm not following you. Am I supposed to follow you?
It's there.
The most recent one is earlier.
No, it's right there. I'm looking at it. Can you read it?
I see that one below there.
I'll slack you. I'll slack you the link.
Don't bother.
Actually, I probably shouldn't, based on conversations we had earlier in Slack. Okay. Oh boy. Marcus, welcome.
Well,
Alright.
that's why I got
I know, I was gonna call you out, I was running too good. Hey, new guys, both you, first timers? Welcome, what brings you?
Huh?
What brings you here?
I work here.
He's like, I like the fillers in the stadium. When they see the meetup's gonna be too low, they just start bringing people in. You work here too, I suppose?
Yeah, totally. They paid me to come here.
But
That's
they
right.
they
Next
watch the
month we're
pizza.
gonna have a bunch of cardboard figures in place of you guys. So, all right. Well, I'm Eric.
I'm Marcus.
This is Marcus. We're the organizers of this lovely little gathering here. We have a few ways you can stay in touch with us. A lot of us already know this, so I'm going to kind of breeze over all this. If any of it interests you, we can always go back. Meetup, obviously, Twitter, which I'm begging these guys to help me out with. Let's see how that goes. If you're into engaging, we do have a Slack channel. It's through our sister group, SDPHP, which is the PHP user group. Hey, welcome. Come on in, everybody. Which is the SDPHP, which is the PHP user group here in San Diego. You can go to sdphp.slack.com. That's the Slack channel to sign up. You have to go to slack.sdphp.org. One of the channels we have in there ties into our IRC channel. So if you're an IRC person, you can just go to IRC. You don't miss out on any of the conversations. You obviously can't go to the other Slack channels. And then we have a website, sdlug.com, which we may talk a little bit more. You want to talk more about that or what?
Well, what?
Glad you're paying attention. We're going to probably redo our website. We're thinking about making it a group project. We kind of started this once before with another user. So potentially what we're going to do, and I didn't do it for this meetup. I probably could have, but I didn't. But what we'll probably start to do is we'll probably start to rebuild the website, and as we're going through the pieces of the website, we'll try to figure out things to present on whatever that piece is. So if you're new to Laravel, if you're new to development, this is a good opportunity to get into some code and start learning on how to do stuff. It'll all be open source, it'll all be on GitHub. You can fork it, simple requests, and all that. Haven't officially started that. I think I uploaded a new version last weekend. I haven't done anything to it yet. So once I get some momentum going with that, I'll be more public about it and looking for more input. And again, coding, sharing. Speaking of sharing and coding, some of us here know this already. We meet, the Diego Dev group here meets every Thursday morning at a place up in Poway. It's a crepe shop. And we just code. I mean, it's where we're working. We work there. We all work remote, and it's a co-working thing. So we all get together on Thursday. It's open to everybody. It's the co-working meetup that's on the SDPHP and Laravel meetup groups. So that's what that is. You're always welcome to join us. There's no structure. There's no talk. There's no planned conversation. You just show up, you code, pick our brains, have a conversation, whatever you feel like doing.
I want to give these guys a spiel from the camera.
Okay, latecomers. We're trying something new. We're recording the meetup with the 360 camera, so everybody's on camera. The big thing that keep in mind is that it has a pretty sensitive mic, so conversations will be picked up there. We don't care. Feel free to talk. Just be aware that you're streaming live.
All right. Next month, John is going to be presenting on advice for PHP developers.
Me?
I think so.
I don't know if you this.
Oh yeah, no, that SDPHP. We're going to be downtown for that one. What are you talking about?
Me?
Any blurb?
Don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. I hadn't told him yet. He's fine. So again, our sister group, SDPHP, John Congan's going to be doing a presentation, advice for new PHP developers.
I really want everybody there, not just new developers. The goal is bringing up different topics that new developers can learn about, but the goal is create a conversation. So I want senior developers there to kind of help guide that conversation. I'll bring up topics, talk about my views, and then hopefully have a conversation.
Sounds good.
I like that idea.
Next month, for our Laravel meetup, we are actually not going to be here. Myself, Marcus, and John as well are all going to New York to the Laravel convention, Laracon. If you guys want to meet, if somebody wants to step up and organize something, you're more than welcome to do it. We'll help coordinate everything. We'll even, order the pizza for you and all that. But we won't be here to do it, so it's up to whoever to say, hey, I'll present on something if people want to show up.
Who's presenting, who's organizing?
But when we do get back on our next meetup, our next scheduled meetup right now will be August 23rd. We will do a Laracon review and wrap up. We'll also talk about everything coming in Laravel 5.5.
All right, the Trello board. I went through it earlier today and I cleared out a bunch of stuff that was really old, and kind of kept some stuff in there that had some notes on it. And if you want to present a talk on any of these topics, or if you want to hear a topic that's not listed there, go to our Trello board, add it to the presentation ideas, maybe sign up for a talk yourself. Yeah.
Cool.
So
Also-
you don't have to be you don't have to be an expert in the field, just want to present.
Just enjoy talking about it. I think all of these shortcut URLs still work. I haven't migrated anything. Trello.sdlug.com will get you to the Trello board. And again, all these slides you're seeing, they're at intro.sdlug.com. Laravel news. That's good. Is that all? Oh, okay.
All right, so we're up to 5.4.27. There's a bunch of little fixes as always and some minor improvements.
Yep. Laravel 5.5 is coming out next month, though. We're all excited about that.
Laracon is completely sold out, and I think they said they have a wait list of 1,000 people, so you're probably not going to make it in there if you don't have a ticket yet. But the stream ticket went on sale for $30. So you get to watch the videos live and then get the videos to download there.
And follow me on Twitter because I will be 360 in that bitch. and on a serious note, Taylor suggested that they're going to look for a bigger venue. I am pretty notorious as far as bugging Taylor to bring Laracon to San Diego, and I have started my campaign early to do it again. So
So if we get a bunch of people doing the same thing.
yeah, so if you're on Twitter.
Is there a hashtag?
We had a hashtag last year. We should just do San Diego Laracon again.
It's not a movement, so it's a hashtag.
Hashtag San Diego Laracon. So and Taylor hears us. I mean, he's replied. So with a very thank you. Now leave me alone.
This one's kind of cool. It's not out yet, but 5.5 supports the auto discovery for packages. That's going to be a really cool improvement over installing third-party packages into your application. Usually you have to run that service provider or run a command to.
Yeah, so you normally when you do your composer require a third-party package, you have to go to your app.php and your config file to add the service provider. In 5.5, if the vendor who's providing the package updates his composer package correctly, it's about like 2 or 3 lines. You won't need to do that anymore. It'll auto-discover it. Yeah.
So there were some cool projects that came out over the past month. Diving Laravel. Laravel's first employee, Mohammed Syed, I think.
That's close. Yeah. I think it's the best I've heard.
He came up with a new project called Diving Laravel, and it's really cool. It kind of breaks down components as like a dive. So you start off at a surface level and you get deeper and deeper into the source code.
As a side note, he's one of these free divers.
Oh, yeah.
He just takes a big breath of air and dives 30 feet, 60 feet down. So he does a lot of that comparison.
So that's a really cool project. It's completely free. I already learned a bunch from it. Laravel.io relaunched. That was a big thing like a couple years ago. Like everybody was going to Laravel.io and they had a big forum there. Now they relaunched and the source code is available, so it's a good way to look at the Laravel source online. was thinking about making, but somebody else beat me to it, is this tweet snippet thing, which if you follow any of the, or a lot of people on Twitter, you see that people are posting screenshots of code online of like, instead of doing this, you could do this, and it looks all cool, and you're like, oh, that's really helpful, but this is going to be gone into the ether. Somebody's capturing those and putting them online, so it's kind of nice.
I just heard about this. Yeah, that's cool.
Pretty cool.
Thanks. Good job. I didn't look at this like. Some shameless self-promotion. We do a couple podcasts. Myself, John, and Tom, who used to be part of this group, but he's moved. We do a weekly podcast called PHP Ugly. Been doing it for over a year now. We're up to episode 67 this week, so that's going. I also, every other week, I get together with the guys over on LaraChat Slack, and we do LaraChat Live. That's more of a Laravel focused roundtable discussion. We will typically have a guest on and have a conversation with them about whatever they're working on. This is just a bunch of this. We'll talk about the user groups, we'll talk about things we're working on. It's just the three of us just talking shop, talking shit, you know?
It's worth it to go on and just listen to the first few minutes when he comes up with a story as to why the episode number is relevant.
Thank you!
Somebody listen.
A little appreciation is all I ask for. That's why you're up here, buddy. We do want to thank our sponsors. Carry.net is the facility you're at right now. They've been providing this facility for us for a while. Diego Dev is a company John and I started 5 years ago now. A lot of us work with Diego Dev. We do the beer, the pizza, and everything else. So that's all there. Anybody interested, the facilities are out the door here, down to your right. And that's it. Whoever's talking, would you please step up? I guess that's it. Alright. Oh, this intro slides, guys. Alright, let me grab a beer, because I'm already cracking.
I thought you were done.
I could be done.
That's what I was
I'm gonna grab a beer though. This is I get to walk away and sit down and relax. But no, not today. Today I'm gonna do double duty. I got this. You guys all relax and enjoy yourselves. Alright. So if you looked at the Meetup, you might have saw the Zoolander reference. I have never watched the movie Zoolander. So
What? Yeah, you got it. Fine.
holy crap. Somebody has suggested I should present the whole talk around Zoolander, and they're like, just watch the movie. Like, I queued it up on Netflix, and I'm like, this is ridiculous, I'm not watching this. So I just found a quote, put it on the air, that's about all the Zoolander you're getting. Alright,
Hey, can you look at that football for me? Yeah, you didn't watch it.
what? The football?
You turned left.
Oh.
I have no freaking idea what you're talking about. Alright, we're going to talk about Laravel models here. So Laravel is a MVC framework. That stands for Model View Controller. And the models we're talking about is the N in MVC. The model for Laravel specifically typically represents the data of the application. In Laravel, each table in your database has an associated model with it. And then see models allow for career. I hate reading these slides. I don't know why I do this. Now Laravel, I did a talk for SDPHP on Cake PHP some last month or the month before, I forget. But Cake PHP is very tied to a naming convention on how it's able to do a lot of its magic. Laravel, to a degree, does the same thing. Laravel has a naming convention for the application. And the basic understanding of it is the model is going to be a singular version of the table, which will be plural. So the user model will associate to the user's table in your database, and the post model will associate to the post data table in your database. This is not a hard and fast rule, as we'll talk about. Just If you want like that auto wiring stuff in Laravel, you have to kind of adhere to those naming conventions. So I was going to do all this slide coding, but then I decided not to. So we've got a lot of slides to go through, but I can probably blast through them. Creating a model is real simple. If you haven't done it before, I'm sure we all have. PHP artisan make model user. The user is the name of your model, so this could be anything. A couple things a few people don't know is that you can throw -m on the end of this. This will then create your model and your migration for that model. And then even fewer people know that you can throw -mc on the end of it for that model to create a migration and a controller. So just a couple shortcuts when creating models. This is gonna be a long talk. I'm sweating here. It's weird. I got my kid here. I don't know how to act right now. I don't know. She's not an employee, John. We don't have employees. Remember this? Remember this whole thing? Remember this?
Screwed up again.
Yeah.
All right, so-
Me this time.
Laravel has a default location for its models. As it stands, it happens to put all models under the apps folder in the namespace of app. Myself personally, I don't particularly care for this convention. And fortunately, you have the ability to override it. So typically, what I'm doing now is I'll just create a models directory. I went back and forth between putting a models directory under HTTP or under apps. Right now, I'm just keeping it under apps. But you can actually do this with your create method. You can do the artisan make model, your folder path, however deep you want it to go, and then your model name. What Laravel will do is, it's aware of this, it'll create the folder for you, it creates the model for you, obviously, and then it will correctly namespace the model for you. So it really doesn't take any extra effort. You just have to, if you have your own convention of where you like your models. I just personally, if you come here, this is just 4 models, and that's already starting to look sloppy to me. And applications will have 50, 100 models in there. It's all depending on how many tables you have in your database that you're trying to interact with. So I just don't like it being in that root namespace. So I just move it. Real simple, doesn't take a lot. The model itself, exact same model. The one to the left here, this might be a little hard to read, but the one to the left here is /app/post. This one's /app/model/post. Exact same behavior. It doesn't change it at all. There's nothing to even think about. Once you put your use statement at the top, it just acts just like any other model. All right, so we mentioned overriding some of the defaults. It's great when you have a greenfield project. We have people here who have been working on a greenfield project. That's fantastic because you don't have to adhere to anybody else's conventions or any legacy apps or legacy data structure. You get to do everything yourself. Occasionally, though, you're brought into a project where there's an established database or established code base, and you have to work around it. It's not a stopgap for Laravel, and you shouldn't worry too much about it. So here, there's this table in our database called company rewarding, which, this is genius. Company rewarding. Doesn't meet any of the naming conventions. I want to create a model for this so that I can start pulling it into my application. So I go ahead and create a models reward model, and then within that model, I just override the table that it's pointing to, and I put in the correct table, company reward. That's all you got to do. So by default, Laravel will look for a rewards table. If I were to call this model, it would look for a rewards table. But by me overwriting it, it's aware now, oh no, it's company rewarding table. After that, it's just like any other model. You don't have to worry about it. So you do it, app models, rewards, all, everything works. But something looks off already, right? Yeah. This data scientist genius decided he didn't need an ID table. He didn't need an ID field. No, he wanted to call his rewards ID reward_ID. He also didn't do created that or updated that. So all these are typical problems with Laravel, right? Because Laravel is still, with the naming convention, even though I told it what table to look at, it's still looking for an ID field to associate things with. It's still expecting a created app or updated app for its timestamps, okay? But this has none of that. Still not a problem. All this stuff is, again, within the reward model, you can override it, all of it. You override the created and updated, you let the model know that this is called created and updated. And you can tell it where its primary key is, which is reward underscore ID. You don't have to change the table. You don't have to change any of the existing data. Because, especially when you're working with legacy data structures, there could be other applications that are using that. We're working with a client now where they have an existing application, an existing Visual Basic application that's using the database, the data structure. So we're trying to massage our application around the naming conventions they have established. And these are some of the tricks that we use to do that. So I fire up Tinker, apps model reward, order by. All I'm doing here is I'm getting the last record in the table. So it's record ID 11, happens to be gold, no big deal. So we'll go ahead, we just want to make sure everything works enough. We get reward ID 12, so we know not only is it creating the ID, but it's auto incrementing it for us. And it inserts our updated and created timestamps for us. That's fantastic. So now that model is fully functional. Does that answer your question, sir?
Kinda.
Oh, that's great. Alright. So there's a few other things you can override. You can override your date format. So again, you're working with an existing data structure. They might not actually store a timestamp. They might store their times, in a different format. And you can actually overwrite that. The second one, we use a lot for a couple of projects we work on. So we work on projects that talk to multiple databases. By default, the model's going to assume that the tables it's associated with are in the default data store. So whatever is defined as your default database, that's where the models assume the tables are. We have projects that are talking to MySQL, Postgres, multiple MySQLs, and we have all those connections defined within the application. So we have to override it and say, okay, this post model is a post model for another database. So this is a handy one to keep in mind. It's really good, especially if you're migrating between two databases. All right. Totally forgotten what I was going to talk about here. Okay, so I'll let you guys know when we exit the user model, but pretty much everything you see right now, moving forward, we'll be doing in the user model. I'll try to be explicit when we exit out a couple times, but for visibility and readability, I didn't want to keep putting the whole model in there because we do a bunch of tests. So I only take clippets, but these clippets are in the larger user model, okay? So we all are aware of that. One of the fundamental ones you see is this hidden, protected hidden. So this has a function, right? So we'll go ahead and define this route. I just said I didn't do what pages, I did a couple. Well, they're JSON outputs, they're still cheating. So we'll go ahead and define this. We'll do a user ID, and we'll return app user, the model, and we'll find that ID. So for user one, this is what it returns. And if you look, there's the fields that are missing are actually the fields here, the password and remember token, because you don't want to see you don't want those returned by default. These can still be returned, you just have to explicitly return them. But you don't typically want a remember token or a password returned on default. So by default, this is what gets returned. But say moving forward, if we didn't want our created app and updated app entries returned by default, we simply add it to this hidden field, and boom, they're gone. They disappear. Again, they're still there, you can still access them, it's just, you don't have to worry about them showing up for simple calls. The flip side of that is occasionally you might want to attach data to a default return that isn't typically part of your table, or has to turn and turn through some logic to get there. This called an append. So in this example, we'll append a link. And again, we're in the user model here. So the naming convention here is required. It's a get, the name of the thing you're appending, so link, it's uppercase. If you had an underscore here, like a profile underscore link, it would be camel case down here, uppercase P, uppercase L. That's called a link. Get link attribute. And all we'll do is we'll return a URL, which is, if you understand what that is, in Laravel, that'll return the URL you're in, /profile /user ID. So by defining this append attribute, now every time I call user model, it's going to append that information onto the records. I don't have to do any more work. I don't have to do anything else. And this is what it looks like. So I just refresh this page. I haven't changed any other code. I haven't touched that route. I haven't added any other code anywhere else. We've only touched the user model. And now we have the luxury of this extra data. And this could be anything. Maybe you want by default, you want their roles, to be part of their default callback, whether somebody's an admin or an organizer. I mean, you can do all that. You can append all that. Relationships. All right. So this is probably the most fundamental use of models. And initially, I wasn't even going to talk about relationships. I have problems with relationships. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't going to talk about it because I thought it was too basic. And then I started getting into a lot of relationships, and I realized, I think relationships will be their own talk. So that's what's going to happen probably. Sometime in the future, somebody will go talk on model relationships. We're going to kind of brush over some basic relationships. We'll talk through some of them. But relationships get very complex. We're actually talking about a very complex relationship today before we got here. Relationships are very powerful. They can do a lot for you, but they can also get very dicey. So this is probably the most basic relationship. Again, we're in our user model, and we're defining a relationship with posts. This is referring to this model has many posts. So essentially what it's saying is any user that's record that you're calling could potentially have multiple posts related to them. They're the owners of the post. That's why it has many as opposed to it belongs to many. And we'll talk about the different relationships in a second. But just by throwing this little piece of code, and what we have 3 lines. This gives us a lot of stuff we can work with. So we're going to create a new route. We're going to call it user. We're going to give it a user ID, and we want to see that user's post. So we'll throw in an ending post there. We're going to use route model binding here, and we'll just return post. So this user becomes app user, and because of the route model binding, it's going to grab this user right here as its object. So we're going to call this post method, which is this right here, and we'll do a get. So all we're saying is whatever user this is, give me all their posts. Pretty simple, and that's all there. So that's the URL there. If you can read that, user 1 post, user ID 1, user ID 1, user ID 1. These are all there. If we change it to user ID 3, boom, 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 we get all their posts.